Dance Dance Revolution.
Alright guys, so like I promised, I didn't promise anything, but I said that I would be reading some of your guys' comments on the discussion video. So you can see I got the dark background because this is kind of like a it's like After Dark. This is Daniel After Dark, and I got some of your comments on here, and I'm just gonna jump right into it. I really loved all of the responses that I got, and there's just so many that unfortunately I'm not going to be reading all of them. I'm going to pick like 10 of them to do. But thank you for commenting, you know. I'm going to have more of these, not necessarily related to videos. It could just be something that I'm thinking about one day and be like, oh, I wonder what everybody else thinks about that. Stuff like that. Alright, so first we have Wings. I've always thought personally that we should start by asking ourselves these two questions. 1. Does Bimani have plans of doing a 20? 2. Is Endymion a 20? Out of that, we can kind of do a little matrix out of the yeses or nos of these two questions and arrive at some fun conclusions. So, right here we have the Pascal's wager of DDR difficulty arguments. I'm liking this so far. If Bimani does have plans on a 20 and Endymion is a 20, it's likely that they want the 20 to be perfect in some kind of way, and Endymion was not it and will be re-rated once 20s are more common. This is probably the best option if you want the 20 to be really iconic instead of just a good hard chart. I agree with this. I think they can't just re-rate Endymion out of the blue. They can't just drop it one day and be like, oh yeah, by the way, it's a 20. I think what they're going to do, similar to Possession Double Challenge, they need to make a real 20 first, and then they can kind of sweep it like, oh, now you won't mind as much if this other 20 kind of has just been here the whole time. So that's a good one. If Endymion is not a 20 and Bimani does not have plans on making a 20, then yeah, it's easy to imagine a scenario where the 19s would shape up to be something like 2DX12s as mentioned, and Endymion will either represent the highest echelon of DDR difficulty or the midpoint if even harder charts appear and are still 19s themselves. That is possible. Like I said, make anything harder than Endymion a 20. It could just be make anything harder than Endymion a 19 because Endymion's also a 19. But like I said, that'd be really, really disappointing if they don't. They just have to pull the trigger on this one. That's still my opinion. If Endymion is a 20 but Bimani does not have plans on making a 20, then they just underrated the shit out of it and are embarrassed to make it an actual 20 in lieu of, say, something they released with the express intent of being that difficult. This is kind of like the first scenario but bad. Yeah, that's also a possibility where it's like, well, we can't call anything a 20 now because we already dropped the ball. That should have been a 20, and now we can't just go out and we'll just say there never was a 20. There are no 20s. If Bimani does have plans on a 20 and Endymion is not a 20, then we have actually no fucking idea what a 20 is. LMAO, it's gonna be Divine Strike CSP tier. Who knows? Oh my god, you guys, DDRXX. Yeah, if Bimani wants a 20, they can shoot us an email of like, hey, can we borrow Divine Strike maybe? When I say us, I had nothing to do with it, but if I say us, or we or whatever, that kind of like gives me more cred. And while they're at it, they can borrow Hatsuyume as well. I have no problem with that. Yeah, I think, I don't know how people would react if something on that level would drop, but I think that's what it's come to. I think that's what they have to do at this point. So, 2 thoughts about this comment. 1, everything you said was true, and 2, everybody go download DDRXX. Yeah, didn't bounce. I think a good idea for a 20 is finally going over that 2 to 2:30 minute mark for songs. Maybe make it cost 2 credits and make it a 3 to 4 minute song, kind of like Pump It Up's full song. I'm assuming you mean 2 songs worth of your playtime. I know this has been done in the console mixes of X and X2, but I'm talking for an arcade release. Looking at ITG, it truly shows sometimes longer can lead to higher difficulty. I feel as 2 minutes is a little tough to fit a fun 20 in. Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with that. That's kind of in the DDR difficulty argument canon where you would say, oh, you didn't even take stamina into account. You're calling that a 17? What about stamina? So if they did a long song like that, then it could be possible to do. I don't know. I can't think of any off the top of my head songs that were like obviously higher rated. I want to say, what's it called? Rising Firehawk. That. I think it started out as a 14 and they had to change it to a 15 because that song goes on fucking forever. That song goes on forever. So I think that is possible for them to make a longer song. And it's the first 20, so it might as well just be the first long-ass song. I know DDR 2011, DDR2, II, they had the full versions of like the pop songs. So if you wanted to play like fucking Justin Bieber 5-minute version, then you could do that. Vic says, I had a dream one time where DDR had a new difficulty chart past challenge called S*, so they could avoid the number 20 rating because they were really scared of the number 20. So, I'm not gonna lay all my cards out on the table, but for a future DDR discussion, I'm thinking I want to talk about, this is unrelated to the topic, I want to talk about DDR dreams, because I've had so many of them, and I think everybody has had a DDR dream at one point. I think that is, I'm almost certain that is a topic that could get enough answers to make a whole video about. Yeah, so this is like, I love dream logic, especially when it comes to games that don't exist. That would be really funny. Wannabe Slot Channel Steve, a 20-footer will come out the same day as Ace 3 on NA Whitecaps. That is true. Got Milk, 0112. There's only 7 level 19 charts right now, and they're so hard that most players can barely even clear them, let alone score well on them. We don't need a 20 yet. See, reading through a lot of these comments, I'm starting to, like, my view is changing a little bit. I'm thinking maybe 19 is the hardest they're willing to go. And it's really tough because I wanted the 20, but I think 18 is the equivalent of like the 2DX12 is an 18, and 19 is just an 18 that was too hard. And when Valkyrie Dimension came out, they're like, well, this isn't an 18, it has, so we'll throw 19 in there, and then everything else is an 18 except for 19. I don't know. Negative. I'm surprised that the artist you picked doesn't include Camellia, because Camellia is like the staple boss song generator out there. Stuff like from the Zronial Zero album fits the bill really well on how serious DDR boss songs are. Also, the hype it creates if Camellia really did create the first 20 in DDR would affect other rhythm games fan bases as well, because it's a widely known name. That is true. Obviously, he was on my kind of short list of candidates, but I was thinking about it, you know, you can't do everything. We can't give him everything, right? We have to let the other artists have a chance for once, right? So, yeah, that's true. Obviously, Camellia could make 100 boss songs for DDR. I don't know, I wanted to give like kind of a not so obvious answer to that. So yeah, you're right, Camellia would work. Kahe Bettino. It seems like DDR won't introduce a new difficulty due to the last time being already more than 10 years ago. That's starting to support my my emerging theory right now that DDR-X came out and the highest was 18, and they were like, alright, we have 20 bars, but really we only want to go up to 18, so let's drop the numbers. And then the next game, Valkyrie Dimension, came out, and it's like, oh shit, this is definitely not an 18, this is too hard. Okay, we'll just throw in 19. We're gonna stop it at 18, but just throw in 19 just for safekeeping. So that's almost my new theory. I don't want to believe it, but that's a more realistic take, I'm thinking. The discussion on difficulty delineation between 17s and 18s was interesting because it reminds us why DDR-X changed the difficulty rating system in the first place due to a lack of delineation as well. The possibility of spreading 17s and 18s to 17 through 19 seems to fit the bill here, or perhaps suggests to a revamp of the difficulty system again. I think not only it wasn't just the space in between 9 and 10 feet that they needed to redo the difficulties, it was because after 10, it kind of kept going, and then they needed to make it something after 10. If anything, they could have just gone with 11, 12, 13. I think the DDRX difficulty change was good because, if only because it brought us the 14, and the 14 is kind of like an art form in and of itself. So I'm glad they did that. But this one would be different. Spreading the 17s and 18s out isn't like a whole system-wide difficulty change. So I think this would be a little bit different. Or they could add, I don't know, maybe the DDR difficulties could go up to 50 or 100, and they could just, but there's a certain point where you can only categorize and subdivide all the difficulties until it doesn't really mean anything. And then people in the comments will still argue between if this is an 86 or an 87, so there's not really any point. Knowing the difficulty of a song is one thing, but then there's another thing that's like actually playing it and knowing it beyond its number. Until you've actually played it, it's hard to know what you're actually going to get into. Dan the Waffle Lord. Knowing Konami, they need to crank out a couple before they make some that were actually good. In my opinion, Lacrima and Max 360 are still the best 19s. That is true. Every 19 they've made, I think, has gotten better. So that's possible. You probably couldn't make a level 20 without giving it stupidly crazier gimmicks than Valkyrie Dimension's insane speed up, or over the period's massive fluctuations, or just actually embrace bracketing foot switch tech instead of just, peppering in little bits and pieces of it. One thing I've always liked Pump for over DDR is that while they have their own boss songs, which both have high-end charts and mid-level ones that are unusually hard for the level they're posted at, 1949, 1950, Desaparecer, Gargoyle Primetime Ultimatum Gloria Paradoxes, they don't just have these sweeping, epic, or intimidating sounding songs as the higher level stuff. They're willing to experiment and have totally weird and silly sounding songs. That is true. Any song in Pump It Up can get a crazy chart. There's like K-pop songs that have insane charts to them. Pump It Up is not as concerned with following the rhythms exactly. There's a lot more streams and that kind of thing. What's it called? Hot Issue. Is that what it's called? Hot Issue? Hot Issue 26 or whatever. That walked so Reiwa Challenge could run. That's all I'm gonna say. Cracks. As much as we want a 20, regardless of whatever it may be or how passable it is, it's not going to happen until we get a 19 PFC. We have gotten a 19 PFC. One person in the world can do it, but point still stands. Or 19s are regularly appearing in competitions. For that, I direct you to last year's KAC, where I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure all 4 of the finalists picked 19s as their song. Which, the BPL, by the way, I don't think 19s are on the table at all. I think in the knockout stage it'll go up to 18, but I don't know if there's 19s. I think that's actually a really good change. We get to see so much more variety. So that had nothing to do with this topic, but I'm just saying I'm tired of 19s in competition. We get the same like 4 songs. I don't think that DDR's best has reached a high enough skill for Konami to decide it's worth making a 20. This is weird because if you look at 2DX, there's 2 sides to this. 2DX, nobody's expected to get a perfect song. It's always like max minus 100 or minus 200 because it's way more difficult, right? So I know the players, the culture of the players is to get MFCs and to be as precise as possible. But I don't think that Konami needs to wait for everybody to be able to, maybe 0.01% of everyone who's ever played this game has gotten an MFC, right? Not me, but DDR players are just so, obsessed with scoring like that, to that sort of level. Additionally, not only are there barely any 19s, meaning it's a huge gap to make a 20 already, but I've already felt that 18s were the end game and 19s were merely over-the-top, overcharted challenge rewards for those who dare glance the wrong way at them. See, this is what I'm starting to think too. I'm starting to think 19 is the once in a while. DDR is different because you have to have to physically move to play the game. So you can't just kill people. 19s are just the super rare extra anomaly charts, and I think 18, throughout the course of this video, I'm starting to come to terms with 18 being the main final difficulty, and 19 kind of just being like, oops, we made too hard a song, so this is a 19. Forced Nature, the 20 will be Camellia and Nanahira. Let me do a little retconning here. My joke in the last video about the level 20 not having an anime girl on the cover. I now decree that that joke was specifically directed at you, Forced, alright? You can make as many 20s as you want. You can put whatever you want on them. But otherwise it's not gonna happen. Sorry. And any other comments you leave on my video I will be reading in a German accent as punishment. So, and you're banned from my channel. So, alright, so I think that's gonna do it for now. Obviously this is pretty experimental for me. I'm kind of improvising a lot of it. Normally I have everything I'm gonna say written out, so this is definitely this was definitely pretty tricky for me to come up with things to say. I need a haircut, and the next discussion video will I'll either post a community topic if it has absolutely nothing to do with any of my videos, or when I make the next discussion video, it'll be at the end of that. I'll open the floor to you guys. Again, thank you for commenting. We gotta get to 1,000, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna get the full combo. You want the full combo, right? So you're gonna stomp that like button, you're gonna PFC that subscribe button, and you're gonna pour honey all over the comments section, alright you guys? I'll see you next time.
From the hit top case, education while we say great. Yeah, a magical mystery theme. Check it out, yeah, the hit house scene. Time, the new astrology.